Welcome to the Pivot Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. Hey, listen, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe this channel so you can continue to pivot into your next.
What's up and what's happening, TPE family? Welcome back to another episode of the Pivot Experience podcast. My name is Alex Seal, and I am excited to be with you guys today. As you guys know, the Pivot Experience podcast is all about helping leaders pivot into their next. I've had the opportunity myself personally to work for what I think is one of the world's most caring, innovative brands in this country for the last 22 years. I don't take for granted that I've had the pleasure to be a part of the story of the brand, at least in my area. And I am so thankful for everything that I've had the opportunity to learn and to implement into my lives. And it really, my employment there is a large reason why the Pivot Experience exists. I've had the opportunity to learn from the Cathy family legacy, and the way they go about doing business and the way that they go about treating people. And that has impacted me so much that I just want to share as much as possible with the world. It's particularly in the area of leadership development and leadership consulting to be able to help leaders pivot into their next. On today's show, we're going to pivot a little bit from what has been the norm for those of you who have been tuning in for the last several months. You guys know that the bulk of our podcast episodes have been replays of our monthly event that we host for free, Lead Better. Lead Better is a virtual event where we bring in guests, Chick-fil-A operators, other coaches, other leaders, basically other people who are in the space of leadership development or hold a leadership position to tell their stories and strategies to help you pivot into your next. We typically hold that event on the fourth Sunday of the month. Right now, if you head over to www.tpenow.com, or if you have the TPE Now app downloaded, the TPE Now leadership app downloaded from your Google Play Store or your Apple App Store, you can sign up for our upcoming leadership Lead Better event. On this month, we're going to have Chick-fil-A operator Lachelle Crest joining us as she talks about her journey in becoming a Chick-fil-A operator and her journey in just developing her leadership and developing her restaurant. And we also have a lot of other great events lined up for you. But as I was saying, typically our episodes have been rooted in replays of those. We find that those bring an extreme amount of value to the people who are on the calls and the sessions live. And so we want to make sure we get those replayed out so people can get a chance to participate in those episodes if you didn't get a chance to join live. Now, however, I will say this, even though we replay those episodes, it is in your interest to join us live, because at the end of those sessions, we offer a free gift from TPE that you don't want to miss. Definitely, I want to encourage you. Again, these occur on the fourth Sunday of the month from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Absolutely free for anyone who wants to join. Not only will you receive what I believe to be a great leadership lesson, but you'll also have an opportunity that you don't want to miss with a free gift from us. And so thank you guys so much. On today's episode, I'm going to tell a story that I probably have never told in public before, not because I'm embarrassed of it or not because I don't think it's important. It's just something I never really thought about. But I do believe that this instance in my life played a huge role in how I think about how I deal with people, how I deal with accountability, how I deal with just when it comes down to rendering discipline or making decisions on what people what actions should follow behind people's I don't say transgressions, but there's things that they've done that they know they shouldn't have done. This instance in my life is something that that was a big deal. The more I think about it, and so I'll just get to it. When I was in the fourth grade here in town, in my elementary school, I brought a knife to school. It's nothing I'm necessarily proud of, nothing that I'm bragging about, but let me provide some additional context. For those of you, and you guys probably don't know this, and again, it's something that I really don't talk about regularly. I'm a bit of a nerd or dork, in my mind, at least. There might be some people who know me who might echo the same sentiment, but man, when I was a kid, I'll never forget. My mom would go to HEB, or we have a grocery chain here in the area called Market Basket. I would always find myself in the school supply section. Like, I used to love just looking at the mechanical pencils and the different pens and wide ruled paper, college ruled paper. Back in the day, we used to have these things called trappers, where they were these big binders that were zippered, and we had all just as a bunch of things that used to be really intriguing to me on that aisle. And so anytime we went to a store, grocery store, it didn't have to be a grocery store. There were these, like 2 or 3 of these in the city at the time. And now I'm going to be really dating myself when I say this. There was dollar stores where, literally everything in the store was $1. I don't think those stores do not exist too much anymore. But you can go in that store, and anything in that store was $1 or less. And so one day, man, me and my mom went to our favorite dollar store that was in the Target shopping center here. It's no longer there, but there was this really big pencil. I mean, the pencil might have been at least 1.5 feet long, about half an inch or 3/4 of an inch in diameter. And I bought the pencil, and it really didn't come with a good way to sharpen it. And at that time, I considered myself not necessarily an outdoorsy person, but a very handy individual. I used to like tools, and I used to carry a pocket knife. And actually, my grandfather gave me an old timer pocket watch. It's one of those not pocket watch, pocket knives that has the 3 blades on it that you can open up. But when I bought that pencil from the dollar store, I bought a small knife because as a kid, I realized that there wasn't a hole big enough on the pencil sharpeners that we had at school in order for me to sharpen this pencil. And I wanted to bring the pencil to school and use it. And so I ended up bringing that pencil to school, and something in me was saying that, I shouldn't bring this knife to school to sharpen it. Now that I think about it, maybe I should have sharpened it well enough while I was at home, and so it'll be good enough for the day. But I ended up bringing this knife to school. And I think I told one of my friends, and I think I got mad at my friend at this time for doing this, but they ended up telling the teacher. And the teacher's name was Mrs. Knox. She was my English teacher. And when my friend told the teacher, it got a little scary. It got a little scary because even though I knew I was a good student, I competed in math competitions in the grades before. I was always one of those kids who prided themselves on turning their work in first. I always wanted to be the first person done with the test. I always wanted to be somebody who just did very well from an academic standpoint. And that was something that I think that all my teachers knew, all the administrative staff knew. But at the end of the day, I put myself in a position to do something that would ultimately could change the trajectory of my entire life. Things could have gone very, very differently for me. I might not be sitting here in front of you all, doing a podcast or having the opportunity to impact lives in the way that I am doing currently, if it wasn't for a teacher who had a high level of discernment and grace for me to be able to say, this kid made a mistake, and this isn't a reflection of who he is. This didn't have any malicious intent. This was something that was done as a mistake. This was something that happened that wasn't intentional. It wasn't meant to do anybody any harm. But I can tell. Let me tell you, in the moment, I felt like, I can't remember how old I was. I know I was in the fourth grade. I just remember sitting in the room after they walked away to try to decide what to do with me in that moment. It was terrifying. And so this instance in my life really, I guess, illustrates, I guess one of my strengths, and some might say a weakness of mine, is the thought to extending grace to the people that are in our lives when it comes down to the folks that we manage, the folks we lead, the folks we live with. And I want to really use this story to talk about the rippling effect of grace in our leadership, the rippling effect of grace. And I've got 3 key points that I want to talk to you guys about, because this story in my life mattered because it was just life changing. And it helped me shape my understanding of leadership. It gave me the perfect example of what grace in action looks like. And then as I'm now an adult and I'm reflecting back, it's helping me bridge a real life event to a leadership concept. And so the first thing and the first point that I want to kind of really talk about is the transformative power of receiving grace. Obviously, I've already kind of stated, like, I knew that I had made a mistake. Even though it was innocent, even though I had no intention of doing anybody any bodily harm, but that was in my mind and that was in my heart. No one else knew that. No one else could verify that I didn't have any malicious intent. The only thing that they could go off of is the track record of who I was and what I did as a student, as a means to be able to try to justify or validate the decision that they were going to make. My anxiety level, I never forget it. The teacher that got the initial report, she was on her teacher break, and they had me sitting in a classroom. And I want to say, and this could just be in my mind, that the lights was off. So I was sitting in this dark room, the teacher and I saw another couple of teachers and then assistant principals in the hallway deliberating about, what my future would have been. And man, I was just sitting there like, what would my mom think? What would my dad think? And they, even though I would think that they have a good idea of who I was as a child, still, the act of bringing a weapon to school is a big deal. And I will tell you the sense of relief that I had when the teacher came back into the room and said, they basically just said, hey, we know you're a good kid. We believe that you did this as an honest mistake. And the worst of it is they took my knife and they never gave it back. And I could deal with that, being that was the result of the situation. And I feel like that second chance was forever ingrained in my mind. And I used that same, and so whether I realize it or not, I use that as a means to kind of tailor how I go about dealing with accountability with other people. This really helped me understand that, hey, if I'm continuing to be a good person like I always am, and it just showed me that even though I might make a mistake, something as big that could have got me kicked out of school, couldn't have got me in a lot of trouble with my parents, could have just changed the trajectory of my life. Someone afforded me grace, and it really helped me build trust in authority and really build trust with saying that, man, I don't, despite maybe, as a kid, you might feel a way about a teacher, or you might have some negative thoughts about what a teacher is doing or how they are going about treating you. Just knowing that if you do what you're supposed to do, there's going to be moments where you fall short. And in those moments, the people who are tasked with, not say judging you, but administering discipline or holding you accountable, can recall those things that you have done that has shown your character to be above what the mistake was. And so I definitely was that moment just highlighted a high level of appreciation for not only the teachers and the staff, but the way my parents held me accountable to certain things as a child. They held me accountable to making sure that I was I wanted to make the right decisions and do the right things. And so it really just made me understand who I was and what I brought to the table, despite what some of my shortcomings were. And from a leadership perspective, man, it was so powerful to just know that I was understood. In that moment, the teachers and the staff had every right to exercise the letter of the law and say, hey, we need to expel you from school. You are a danger. You present a threat to the student body and to the teachers and the staff here. Just for the fact that you brought the weapon, but for somebody to understand that I made an honest mistake was huge for me. Really appreciative of Miss Knox and the understanding that they had that I wasn't a kid who meant any harm. And just, again, I was in no leadership position. I wasn't a head of a club or anything like that, other than what I felt like maybe I did a good job of leading myself when it came down to my studies. Like just knowing that somebody had your back is huge. And for us as leaders, there's probably a lot of moments that we have the opportunity to have someone's back, but we might miss that opportunity. We might miss the chance to extend that grace, afford that grace. And that kind of brings us to our next point. And this is becoming a channel of grace. This instance had a ripple effect on my life, and I can't deny that. I can't deny the fact that I realized that I was in a situation that could have gone left, that could have been different, that could have just turned out, in a way that could have changed my life. But the fact that it didn't, and the fact that I dodged that bullet and I was given grace, I just have the natural desire to pass it on. I'm not so much in the posture of always wanting to receive grace, but to also give grace back and to ensure that the people around me feel that the opportunity that I was given, they're given the same level of grace and opportunity to not make reckless mistakes. Right. Again, I preface this with who I was as a student played a role in how they determined to go about exercising discipline. Now, if I was rowdy and had a track record of poor disciplinary records and history, and my behavior was unsatisfactory, maybe that decision making would have went a whole lot different. But I believe the fact that I didn't cause much trouble. I felt like I was a good reflection of what the campus wanted from their students. That is what created this opportunity for me to be able to kind of get past that issue. And from a leadership standpoint, are you identifying opportunities to afford grace to the people that you work with? I know it gets tough, particularly in these economic times where it seems like the economy is on a bit of a downswing and people aren't spending in ways that they used to spend. However, you still have to find the opportunity to extend grace to the people who you have been working with and that have been doing a good job for you and the organization, and find a way to look past if they make a mistake, and not say just to excuse it, acknowledge it, offer some measures of accountability if the instance happens again. But you have to learn how to balance this between these two tough ideas of accountability and grace, because again, like I said, for me, the level of grace that was given, and just given the gravity of the situation. I'm sure when you heard me say I brought a knife to school, some of you who have known me in the professional sense, and like I said, I've never really verbalized this before, it might be a bit shocking, and you might be a little judgmental towards the teaching staff if that they didn't do a little bit more. I have children who are in school, and one of my kids came home and said, "Hey, somebody brought a knife to school." I don't know how I would feel about it exactly. Even though that grace was given to me, my parental lens will start to, the alarm will start to blaring in my head, like, "Hey, what's going on?" And of course, we'll do our due diligence, and hopefully, the teachers could be able to articulate, hey, this is a good student who made a mistake, but anyway, just as leaders, are you doing a good job of balancing accountability and grace? A lot of times when we lean so heavy in the realm of accountability and we don't afford that grace to the people who are deserving of it, we lose good people. We run good people off. And then we show the example of our lack of grace to the other people on the team, and then they become paralyzed, man, to make mistakes. And that's the one thing that you don't want to have a team who feels like their hands are tied. And if they, not necessarily saying making a mistake to cause a problem, because like I said, I only brought the knife to be able to use the pencil, right? So the mistake that I made was purely in the effort of me being able to continue to do my work. Now, bringing a big pencil to school doesn't increase my ability to get work done, or it doesn't increase my ability to add more value. But there might be people in your organization who might look at something and may want to take a risk, not in the sense where it's a mistake in their mind, but they maybe have identified something and want to take initiative to be able to help them do the job better, but and not knowing that decision could have been detrimental to the course of the work or the overall thing that you're trying to get accomplished. And so there's just a ripple effect of how we go about applying grace and applying accountability to our teams that could be detrimental to the culture. And that kind of brings us to the last point, is creating a culture of grace. When you look at your organization, 9 times out of 10, you have, you might have one or two things: an organization that is all about accountability and nothing else, or an organization that appears to be graceful, but they're just letting things slide. And I think there's a difference. When we are giving grace, we're acknowledging the errors and the issues that are existing. We're acknowledging that these things are wrong, but we are foregoing the means to be able to hold the person accountable based on whatever the protocols are, because there's something else that we're considering. There's an additional factor that isn't on paper, that isn't quantified by the measures we might use to measure things normally. There might be something that you need to consider, or you should be considering, that will influence your decision to not exercise that discipline. And so there's great organizational impact on this idea of creating a culture of grace. You build trust when you create this culture of grace. Your innovation that exists in your organization increases because people are more willing to take risks, because they understand that as long as their actions and decisions are well intended and they don't cross any of the boundaries of creating bodily harm, creating facility, harming the facility, then they are more willing to take those risks. Here's a few things that you can do to create a culture of grace in your organization. One, you can set the example. You as the leader, if you want to have people around you that have the discernment to lend grace when needed, you have to set the example of what that looks like. You have to be the person who is having that fine balance of accountability and grace. Also, you have to take advantage of those moments where you extend grace and use them as teachable moments. Allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to identify with what someone else is doing, highlight a mistake that you've made, highlight the grace that you've been given, and then express to them the results of that grace that was given to you. And so I definitely think that taking advantage of the moments where you have a chance to give grace as a teachable moment. Most definitely. And this has just long-term effects. When you implement a culture of grace, or you build a culture of grace in your organization, you create more team loyalty. the people who are working for you are more inclined to want to do the things that you would have them do, or want to be a part of the long-term mission and goal, if they know that, hey, I'm working with someone who is not going to judge me for every little thing that I do. They're going to be a partner in my growth and development, and help give me tools to do my job better, and help me really just be more integrated into what's going on. You will be surprised, depending on what your line of employment is and the demographics that you work with, that a lot of people are just looking for someone to believe in them, for somebody to have their back in moments where they might not have been their greatest. And when you do that effectively, the level of loyalty that it will exist for not only you as the individual leader, but for the organization as a whole will be huge. You're going to improve performance when you create a culture of grace. Everybody likes to, will work a little harder, knowing that, man, the leadership team or the ownership that we're working for are real people who care about you as an individual, and realize that you're human, and the fact that you're human, they realize that you're susceptible to making mistakes. And so definitely that's a huge benefit of creating a culture of grace. And then additionally, just a positive workplace culture. The attitudes, the way people feel about each other just gets better when you understand that there's a line of grace that exists within the organization, that, hey, if I make a mistake, that I'm not going to be punished to the fullest extent, as long as I'm a team member or employee that exemplifies the things that that the organization expects, the majority of the time. And in those instances where I do slip, I know that the leaders that I'm working with will help me get through those things. And so here's some practical takeaways from today's episode that I want you guys to consider. Just number one, for you leaders out there, look for opportunities to extend grace. Look for opportunities to extend grace. I can assure you, if you are intentional in this area, there's going to be some moment in a day where you're going to witness somebody doing something, and you have the opportunity to extend that grace. Now, don't get confused with extending grace with getting ran over. If this is something that becomes repetitive or reoccurring, then I'm sure exercising the letter of the expectation is something that's warranted. I know for a fact, probably if I were brought a knife to school again, they're going to be a whole lot less graceful towards me, because they outlined the parameters to say, hey, if you do this again, this is going to turn out a whole lot more differently. Also, leaders, consider the long-term impact of extending grace, the loyalty that will be built, the culture of positive attitudes, people wanting to do the work and wanting to do it at a high level. When they're in an environment where grace is given, they're going to want to perform at a much higher clip. For teams, when grace is flowing throughout the organization in a healthy way, we build trust. The people who are working with each other don't come in with this idea that everybody's out to get me. People are picking on me. People are targeting me. If there's a healthy level of grace that exists in the organization, people are more trusting of what's going on. You create safe spaces when people know that you're not going to immediately judge them for their shortcomings or mistakes. They're more forthcoming about what's going on with them. They're more transparent about what's going on in their lives, and they're more willing to work with you and be connected to you and share things about themselves that could be beneficial for you in terms of understanding who they understanding are they in the right position in the organization, and understanding their passions, and understanding that they may want to there might be some things that are a need in your organization that they can fulfill because they were vulnerable with you and expressing certain things that you interpret as a way that can help you in other areas of your business. And then last, for teams, this is, when grace is there, it encourages growth. People on your team are going to be more apt to want to grow and evolve. One of the things that I always say in our organization, if we don't have people who are wanting to grow and wanting to become leaders and wanting to fill vacancies, then you got a problem. You've got a problem in your culture, and there's some level of toxicity that is existing there that is stifling your ability to create an environment that people want to grow in. And I believe grace plays a part in that. And so definitely want to make sure you're considering that. And here's a few call to actions for you guys who are listening to this. This week, I want you to identify one opportunity for grace. Identify at least one chance for you to extend grace to a team member or a fellow leader who is working hard, most of the time exemplifies what you're looking for in the organization, and extend grace to them. Document that impact and then share it with other leaders, because other leaders can be encouraged by your ability to recognize the opportunity to extend grace, and it's going to help them create more opportunities in the restaurant or in the organization to extend grace. And so, man, just this has been an incredible episode. Again, this is something that I've never shared before. The moment in which I made the decision to bring a knife to school with no malicious intent. I just wanted to sharpen my pencil. But the simple idea of, wanting to get something that I wanted to do and being willing to go against the grain in such a way that I know could have changed my life. But to receive grace for it has been something that has impacted my life in more ways than I'm sure Miss Knox or Miss Pollard, who was my homeroom teacher. Shout out to Miss Pollard. She's still here in town. Her and her daughters and her whole family are raving fans of ours, so I get a chance to see them often. But, shout out to them, and shout out to them just giving me an opportunity to continue to grow and to blossom and to develop into the leader that I am today. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully something about my story that I've shared today can help you on your leadership journey, whether that's personally or professionally. I believe leadership concepts, especially the ones that we share here at the Pivot Experience, are applicable and can be used in multiple areas of our lives. No matter what your profession is, no matter what your family dynamics are, there is something that I feel like if you're working on yourself as a leader, those things are transferable, and then they show up in other areas of our lives. And so I want to encourage you, if you to please just share this content with someone who needs it. Make sure you, if you're watching this on YouTube, to subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted to when we are putting out more content. Your subscribership and your interaction with our content really helps get our content in front of other people and gets our message out to people who we feel like we can help. Just if you're interested in joining our free virtual sessions called Lead Better, go to our website, www.tpenow.com, and you can sign up for that absolutely free. Like I said, this month's Lead Better will have Chick-fil-A operator Lachelle Crest on sharing her story in becoming an operator and what that has meant for her life so far. I also want to encourage you to, if you want to join a group of like-minded leaders, we have an exclusive community on our app. If you download the TPE Now Leadership app, that you will have the opportunity to join, called Leaders Square. Leaders Square is a group approaching 200 members, man. We've got almost 200 people in that group who are focused on their leadership development. Myself and some of the other coaches here at TPE, we put content out there to help provoke thought, to help stoke and push your development as a leader. And so we want to encourage you to join that group. It's 100% free, and you're going to be able to receive content there. And so that's all I have, and I will just end you guys. Actually, I'm going to leave you guys with two things. I'm going to leave you guys with some questions that you will ask yourself at the end of this. When has grace changed your leadership journey? Think about that. Think about a moment where grace was afforded to you and how it changed your journey. Number two, how do you balance accountability and grace? How do you, balance between the two of those? And then lastly, what opportunities for grace do you see in your current role? What about your current position and current responsibilities do you see opportunities to lend grace? And here's a quote to end our time on. Grace isn't just a gift we receive. It's a legacy we leave. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the Pivot Experience podcast. I hope something was said during this time that will help you advance and grow as a leader. And until next time, TPE family, peace.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.